It's not quite live. There we are. We should be live.
Right.
We are live. Hey, welcome to WP-Tonic's Hangout. Jonathan, you're like going to be the host today. I'm Bill Conrad from New Media Gold, running the backside, and our wonderful panels. They can introduce themselves.
Yes, right.
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Are there any ladies here? I suppose I'm on the end of the row, so I suppose I'll start. My name is Sallie Goetsch.
First of all, I'd like to say that Patrick will not be joining us. He's feeling a bit under the weather, and he's got a lot of work to do with WooThemes. So, ladies first, but we're going to start with our guest lady.
All right, Natalie.
Yes.
Go for it.
Hello, I'm Natalie MacLees, founder and principal of Purple Pen Productions and founder and chapter leader of Girl Develop It Los Angeles. Woohoo!
Right. Our next lady and our normal panelist.
Not normal enough. My name is Sallie Goetsch. I'm the organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup. I've been using WordPress since 2005, and I actually dream about it.
You don't, do you?
I have dreams about coding. Yes, it's.
Oh
really
my!
Really?
Unfortunately, I'm not doing anything brilliant in them, and I never remember the solutions when I wake up.
Oh, I'm not going to respond to that actually. Next, John Locke.
Hello, I'm John Locke, and I am a developer and founder over at Lockedown Design in Sacramento, California.
Right. David will be joining us, but a little bit later. That's what he informs us. That's what he informs me. So, Adam, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Adam Silver. I run South Bay WordPress Meetup in the Los Angeles County area, and I also have a blog and podcast over at KitchenSinkWP.com, and I do other stuff in WordPress.
Yes. And of the notorious Morten. Can you introduce yourself, Morten? He goes silent.
More than sign language.
Yeah, he will be coming and joining us when he sorts. All right. Can you introduce? I'd like to introduce my co-host. Can you introduce yourself, Bill?
Oh yes, I'm Bill Conrad. I'm the least fluent in WordPress, but I'm learning so much. They say you are as the 5 people you are around, and I tell you what, I learned so much from these Google Hangouts and these WordPress specialty folks. So I really enjoy it, and I hope to get around to all your meetups too. That's one of my goals this year.
All right, there you go. And I don't know what I am, but my name is Jonathan Denwood. I run a small digital agency called Digital Delirium in Reno, and I've been actively developing in WordPress since version 2.9. And I'm the kind of online moderator, whatever, and Bill controls all the stuff in the background, so it's quite useful. So hopefully Morten will return at some stage. And
whatever.
So we have decided that we're going to have a general discussion period, and then we go on to the main subject, which is going to be WordPress membership plugins and our experiences of those. So to start off our general discussion, I thought that WooCommerce had just issued a kind of solution for photography, and it struck me it had some interesting elements because it was like they were offering a kind of complete service aimed at photography. It was a theme, maybe plugin combination. And I think there's kind of traction in that where you offer kind of a complete package for specific industries. And I just wondered what the panel thought of this new plugin from WooThemes and the whole concept. Are we going to get more of these type of combinations aimed at particular industries? Go on, panel, please, somebody.
I suspect we will get more of these solutions. As I said in the kind of pre-roll discussion, I think, you know, if I were a photographer, I'd probably still be looking more at the graph paper press, sell photos solution. But if I had a site where I was selling a bunch of other things in a WooCommerce store, it would be nice to have this available.
So as a ex-photographer, let me just go ahead and put this on around my neck. This huge piece of glass.
Oh, it's the big lens.
Yeah, I have the big glass. I have a few of them, and I'm trying to sell some of them.
Well, the lenses don't lose value.
No, they lose no value. They gain value. Anyway, so I still shoot. I don't shoot nearly as much as I used to. It's ironic. I got into WordPress because of my photography business. I needed a new site. I was presenting at Natalie's meetup 4 or 5 years ago, talking about a different framework and a layout, and my old site was a flat HTML. It was just time. And so that said, I built my own, and had this existed then, yes, it'd make it much easier. What I find odd is the fact that they do a licensing, $79 for one site, 5 sites, $129, 25 sites, $179. So if you're a photographer, it's just, I can see the reasoning. I just don't necessarily. It's odd.
It's how they price everything.
Of course, so it's one. If I'm a photographer, I'm gonna buy it once. But if I'm a developer focusing on trying to get business from photographers, I would buy the larger packages. The only issue is
or you'd have each of your clients buy their own.
Buy their own, exactly. So the main issue is I didn't really look at the docs too much in depth and what they're using for. I know WooThemes is great. I know them. I was talking to one of them recently at WordCamp Maui. I'm just gonna keep dropping that in there. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's rough, isn't it?
Yeah. It's been a rough life this last month for me, let me tell you.
Yeah, we feel so sorry for you.
Yeah. So I went from 80 degrees to 84 degrees balmy. I'm sorry. So
life is rough.
It is, I
Can I just slightly interrupt? Morten, are you with us, Morten?
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
yes, we can.
Morten, you can speak. You're a little white. You're a little white though. You look pale.
I do.
Yeah, you're washed out. Your light's
Okay.
You're right on.
Direct.
Looks like there's a.
You know why? You know why? It's because I'm on my Mac, and Mac for some reason.
I'm on my Mac
properly.
and I look wonderful.
So let me just click on this button here. And then
I'm on my PC because my Mac wouldn't be up to this.
Oh, well. Bill, I think the camera's on me all the time, Bill.
No, it's not. I'm watching.
Oh, isn't it? Oh,
not at all. In fact, I've got
right.
both monitors up. It's doing well.
That's just for you, John.
He's got 4 monitors, my...
No, I don't have 4 monitors. I got 2 Macs.
And rain radiation.
He's got he's surrounded. He's like a Bond villain.
I
think what Morten is surrounded by is soundproofing, which is very sensible.
Oh, Morten, yeah. Oh, Morten looks good. Looks like he wants to do like a...
I clicked the button. See, now it worked.
He was like recording for Linda.
All right, Natalie, I think the question Natalie, what did you think about this WooFoo plugin? Do you think it had any kind of interest at all, or...?
Not for me personally, but I think a photographer needing to sell photos is a pretty common use case. And with the WordPress community and the market for WordPress being so huge, I think that there's a lot of room for these really niche solutions that you think, oh, well, less than 1/2% of WordPress users are going to need this, but 1/2% of how many millions of websites is still a pretty substantial chunk of a market.
Yeah, I totally agree, Natalie. That's that was the main reason why I added it. Was it's only a small section, but I think there's going to be more of these type of products, and it just kind of, I thought it was just interesting. It came from WooThemes and being that they're big players in this sector, but I think there's a lot of other people that are looking at niche.
So I'm going to ask a quick question though on this. I'm looking at the documentation real quick, and obviously they have the ability to add photographs. They have the ability to sell product. But from my perspective, when I was shooting professionally, and I want to sell prints.
Right. I don't see anything about selling prints.
So I use a service called Zenfolio. I still use them. I downgraded recently because there was no reason for me to go for the higher level. I wasn't selling enough to make it sense. But Zenfolio is perfect, and now Zenfolio also offers blogging. So they didn't. You used to have 2. You had your site, and you had them for. So I actually have a seed name set up. So you go to store.myoldcompanyname.com. Nobody knows you left my domain. They took care of my store. I create packages. I create prints, framing, all that stuff. all through them, and then they manage it all. So that's the only drawback I see. I don't think it's a full solution, because I think that would be that's more than the theme can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Cell Media plugin from Graph Paper Press does prints. Let me drop the
All right.
link in there.
I think we go on to the next subject. The next subject I put on was obviously the core developers of WordPress have changed. Helen and Dion. They've retired, semi-retired, and we got 2 new heads. I just want to get from the panel, because I'm no obviously, having 2 new leads will change the focus slightly. But have you got any insights how far out does the core team of WordPress plan their updates, the revisions of WordPress? And have you got any insights maybe on how decisions are made in WordPress and Automatic about the direction that WordPress is going to go?
Matt calls Rand and I all the time. We do talk. And then we bring in Natalie.
Yeah.
We do beers on Skype. No,
Yeah.
There's a roadmap. I mean.
Yes, I put the link to the roadmap in the chat.
There you go. So there's the roadmap, and that's what I use, and that's what I go by. Those dates are loose; they're not in stone as far as the release dates, because things come up, and bugs are found, and depends on, they have to make a decision what gets squashed and what gets included or not included. But they're pretty close, and that's what I think is awesome. I mean, I love the fact that there's a roadmap.
Right. But like you say, things changes. In the next, let's say, the next year, is that obviously at the conference, Matt said that the language side was going to be a big thing for them. But in the next year, do you see any fundamental other things that are going to come up that are going to surprise people?
No.
Oh, that's it.
It depends. If you're paying attention to what they're talking about producing, it's not going to surprise you. I mean, I subscribe to the dev chat emails, and they say, all right, we're working on this, we're working on that. We just put the theme changer back into the customizer and so on. And sometimes you see that oh well, we've made a decision to postpone this because it's not working out right. I mean, I hope we don't get more surprises of the sort we had in 3.6 with the post format UI disappearing at the very last minute, which was frustrating, as I just made a bunch of videos with them in it, and also because I really liked it. It doesn't seem to have that many fans, but I actually quite liked the post format UI. But I think they probably all learned a lesson from that in terms of being more confident about implementing something before they promise.
So Morten, what do you think?
You asked like 3 completely different questions. Are you talking about?
I do that normally.
Are you talking about the new lead developers, or what's happening in WordPress, or if there's a plan going forward?
Yes.
Okay, let me answer the what's happening thing then.
Answer any or all of those.
Okay,
you can answer whatever you think I was asking.
So the big thing that's changed in how WordPress is developed happened not last year but the year before, after the big disaster of post formats UI, when all of the feature core development was moved into feature plugin development. So anything that's new to WordPress, any kind of new feature that hasn't been there before, any kind of change or extension is now developed as a standalone plugin, so people can test it as it's being developed without it getting built into the core, and then if it doesn't work, have to be pulled out again. So right now, there are several major plugins that are underway. You have the front-end editor, which is going to be launched sometime in 3087, I think.
They're just waiting for all those page builder plugins to, have.
Yeah, exactly. There's the WP API, which is coming soon. There's the what do you call it, like pods-ish kind of thing where you can add new types of content, but not as contents. You can add new fields and things like that. So basically something that will make either pods or advanced custom fields irrelevant. That's coming. There's work on a new image editing and image adding feature called Flow, which is coming sometime in probably 4.5 or 6. So there's a lot of things happening. And you can actually follow along by going and checking out all these feature plugins and see what's going on. But it's not... the funny thing is there is no actual grand scheme. People think there is, but there isn't. It's mainly a matter of people saying, hey, I want to do this. Does anyone else want to do this too? And then if enough people want to do it, they jump together and they make a team and they start building a plugin. And if that plugin proves to have value, then it might get baked in once it's built to a proper standard. Now, as an example, 2 days ago, a plugin was released called RICG Responsive Images, and it was built by the people from I can't remember what it's called. It's basically the people who built the picture fill plugin that allows web browsers to support the new markup standard for HTML5 responsive images, even though the browsers currently don't. Now, there's been a plugin for a while that's been kind of wonky, but now the team that built picture fill have joined in to build that plugin. And you can use it right now, and it'll give you properly marked up responsive images on your site for all your new posts. And they've started work on making that a feature plugin. Now, the funny part about it is no one really knew this was happening until all of a sudden it popped up a couple of days ago, and then thousands of people install it, and now there's a channel on Slack, and everything is happening at once. So there's a chance that might actually be baked in sooner than we think, whereas some of the highly anticipated features like image flow and the WP API keeps getting pushed forward and forward because it's so complicated.
This was the reason why I brought it up, because I was aware that they're kind of separating functionality and plugin, and like most things, there's good and bad. And one of the bad things is that some things get pushed back, other things get ramped up, and yes, there's an overall plan, but what you've just described, that some get pushed back and get some forward, it can seem to start to get a little bit chaotic. But that was only mine.
It's open source, man. It's open source. That's how it works.
I suspect it was chaotic anyway.
Yes. What's your feeling? What do you think, Natalie? Do you think I'm just talking rubbish, or do you think,
No, I could see if from outside, if you're not following the core chats and just the releases that they put up on make.wordpress.org, it can seem just like random features come out in every release, and who makes these decisions? But it's for the most part a bunch of volunteers working on what they're passionate and excited about, and it's just kind of whoever wants to jump in and work on it can.
Yeah, I think you've got to keep that into consideration. What's your feelings about it, John? You've been very quiet.
Yeah, well, definitely, I think a lot of what appears in WordPress is just paving the cow paths. It's paving, making things solid that people are already trying to do and that people are requesting. And I think it's a good direction that they've taken, where they develop these features as plugins first to work out all the bugs. And I think that's what's happening right now with the JSON REST API, because I think that's going to be a big game changer, like custom post types was.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But I think that they have to, it seems like that's getting pushed a little back.
WordPress has custom post types? I'm just kind of
Newsflash.
Right. I think
it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time, as it continues to grow. So.
All right. Yeah, well, I'm English, so I don't get excited about anything.
Time for a joke about the English. Anybody have a good joke about the English?
I think you just said it.
Good job.
All right, on to the next one, because taxonomies. I put in this plugin, detect shared terms, and I noticed Matt in San Francisco, the things he said that he felt that needed improving was taxonomies and how WordPress deals with taxonomies. And I think I kind of understand what taxonomies really do, but when I try to explain it to other people that are not into WordPress, I know after about 10 seconds I've totally lost them. So I'd like to ask the panel, do they think that, do they agree with Matt that this is one side of WordPress that needs to be made more simplified, and what are the rows of taxonomies, and or does it not really matter? I'm going to ask Adam because I'm sure I'm going to get a 2-sentence reply. Go on, Adam.
It depends. I mean, taxonomies are important, of course. I mean, I've always described the taxonomy structure as it's the added functionality to custom post types. That's how I use them, because we have categories and tags. Does anyone remember when we didn't have tags?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And there was a tags plugin.
Right. So
there were several tags plugins.
Yeah, and then we just had a long blog. Just had all the categories, and there was no other way to. It was crazy. So I think they're important. Whether they need to be baked in, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough call. Or what the next step of them, or the best way to describe them. I tend to tell people it's learn them about them when you need them for the next level of development.
Right, I'm going to ask Natalie. Do you think that how taxonomies are handled in WordPress needs to be fundamentally altered? And because I was just interested that Matt actually thought it was rather complicated how they're set up in WordPress at the present moment.
Yeah, I haven't found them to be terribly complicated. I think one thing I've been frustrated with is if you have the nested, I'm not sure, hierarchical taxonomies, I don't really like how those work. I think if you assign it to one of the child taxonomies, it should automatically get the parent, and it's really wonky and weird how that works.
Yeah, so, that's what I was thinking, Natalie. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think other than that, I know a lot of newcomers to WordPress really struggle with the difference between categories and tags. Yeah. And I always describe it as categories are like the table of contents at the front of a book, and the tags are like the index at the back of it.
Right. What does Morten say about this?
So let me describe the difference between categories and tags in a way that actually makes sense.
Please do, Morten. I knew you were going to point.
So this is I always use this description because it really functions.
Shall I go make a cup of tea, Morten, as you're doing it?
Just bear with me. When you're in your bedroom.
Oh.
When you're in your bedroom and you want to get dressed, you go to your closet. In your closet, you've organized your clothes in a specific system. So you'd likely have your shirts and your pants and your skirts and your blouses and your socks. These are your categories because they're categories of things. Like they might be different, but you would organize your clothes mainly in those categories. And then you can have super categories like winter clothes and summer clothes and things like that. The tags are the things that are in the back of your clothes that say who made them, where they're from, what they're made of, and so on. They're relational. So for instance, you can't wear a wool shirt and a linen shirt.
I think the panel is aware of this, Morten. Yeah, I think we just want to know. We just want to know if it can be improved.
You're asking how to describe taxonomies to people so they understand it. That's how you explain it. So
I think it's great.
Yeah. I'm going to use it for my class next month.
That's why Morten is a Linda instructor.
I mean, I use food as far as my examples, but whatever.
Yeah, that's the difference between categories and tags. Now, the thing with the taxonomies that has come up, like this new plugin that's being rolled out, actually has nothing to do with rolling taxonomies into WordPress. It has to do with a really old bug that triggers this bizarre situation where if you make a taxonomy, so a custom taxonomy, and give it a name, and that name already exists somewhere else in a different taxonomy, you can create a conflict that is really disastrous, but you don't see that it's disastrous until it becomes very, very
time continuum.
Yeah, it creates total chaos in the database.
What
they've done is fix the bug in such a way that so they've fixed the bug But the problem is when they fix the bug, if you currently have that problem on your site through a plugin or a theme, and the new version of WordPress rolls out, then those tags will get all messed up. Like the taxonomy slugs will get messed up. So therefore, you have to run the plugin to find out if you currently have these things on your site so that you can clean them up before the next version of WordPress rolls out. Now, this is a typical example of bad decisions made a long time ago that have never been fixed because of the concern of what would happen if they got fixed. Now that it's fixed, there has to be an information campaign to make sure people don't get screwed when the new version comes out, right?
Oh, thank you for that. Actually, it was very insightful, and yeah, I'll be looking at my code.
So,
what does John think about this? Got any practical, where you struggled with taxonomies or you had to use them? Give some insights, John.
Well, yeah, I've had to use custom taxonomies once or twice on a couple projects before. The one thing that the way that I understand the changes that are happening now is, as Morten described, if you name your taxonomy the same thing as you name something else, there can be a conflict. And from what I understand, this bug has been around for about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
But now with WordPress grown to the size that it's at, separating out those different taxonomies, say you have two things that are named the same thing, you want to separate it in a way to where it's not going to cause bugs on all these millions of sites. So I think this is kind of a big deal. It'll make life easier. I know for me, in the past, it's you can't name categories and tags the same thing, or I've tried to avoid that. So definitely, I think this is a big deal. So.
All right, thanks for that.
Yeah, it's
I'm just
important to fix.
Yeah, go on then, Sal. What you got to say?
I was just going to say it's important to fix the bug, and you do. I have run into what may be this bug or maybe something else where something has ended up with the same slug as something else, and you go to a really unexpected place when you click the menu link or whatever, and you're puzzling over it, and you finally discover, oh, there was a page that was trashed but not deleted that was called that, or there was a category with this name and also a menu item with this name, and so anything that can help prevent those things is good. And I think also just kind of reflecting on the site that I'm building now, that all right, so you have an event plugin and it creates event categories, and then you have an event category and you give it the same name as like the post category, or do you need to give it a different name that's similar to, in trying to organize things, or do you just want to go into the code and say, no, I'm going to change this up so that I can use my regular categories on my events?
All right, I think we've covered that, and we've got some good insights. Thank you, panel. So I'm going to go on to my last one, that I do not apologise about it. I know visual plugin builders, page builders. We're back onto that again. I don't propose. You can't. I'm pretty. You can start reading my mind, really. So I've been trying out this one, and I think it's an awful name though. It's Beaver Builder. I don't know.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
That was my
I've read
cool mascot.
but
Pardon?
yeah, the name is iffy.
It's a bit iffy, isn't it? Beaver Builder, isn't it? But I've been trying.
We just all have dirty minds. That's all.
Oh, well, I'm not.
That
Go on,
was my
Natalie.
high school mascot. My high school's mascot was a beaver. Yeah.
Where are you from?
High school?
Washington?
That was my high school. And my dad would sometimes laugh. He'd be like, hee hee hee, and I'd be like, what's so funny? He'd be like, oh, nothing.
So where's this Beaver High School?
In Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
In the woods.
Next to
Great.
a river.
The woods. It is in the woods. There was a bear in the parking lot one time.
Right.
Wow.
So I apologise to the viewers, but it's all down to me. But I've been trying it out, and actually, it's one of the most slickest ones that I've tried. And they gave me a review, and I probably will splash out some of my own money on it because I actually think it's pretty cool. But you know, the reason why the reason why I brought it up, panel, was that I actually think it. I think with WordPress.com, I actually think I have no insight in this at all, but I think in the next this year we're going to see some big changes with WordPress.com. And I think I sense that some of the bigger changes are going to be with WordPress.com, and I think there's going to be a much better. There's going to be a real hardcore visual editor built into it, and there's going to be some other big changes. But go on, somebody in the panel to say that I'm talking absolute crap. Go on.
No, you know what, Jonathan? I think you actually have a really good point. Because if WordPress...
I'll send you the $20 tomorrow, John.
Okay, sure thing. Well, I mean, yeah, if you're talking about getting more people on websites and WordPress having competition like Squarespace and Wix and Weebly, I think you definitely have to make WordPress.com as comparable to them as possible. And if you have some sort of visual builder that makes it easy for the common person to get online, you know, quickly and have it look professional, then that's definitely an asset.
I don't know if I like this Rational John. I don't know if I like Rational John.
I don't know.
I mean, this is just weird.
I don't know the irrational John, but you know, I had a client I built a WordPress site for, and she has a second site that she did in Wix, and she is forever complaining to me about how much easier Wix is.
Of course.
I did a presentation last night, SBDC, here locally, and at the end of the night, a woman came up to me and she said she's an artist, she needs a site, she feels like WordPress might be too much for her, should she use Wix or Weebly or Squarespace? And instead of laughing her out of the room, like I might have done 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, I said, you know, it's an option. You know, there are different, you know, do the trial, do the 2 weeks, whatever they give you, try it. The only issues I have with it versus even WordPress.com, I try to get her to go to WordPress.com, but I said the issues are the monthly fees, you know, and can you get your data out later when you want more? If you want to start selling your art, can you do some of those things?
that's the, you know, can you export it and transport it, and that is one thing about WordPress.com is that it's easy to do that.
Right, she's in a bind. And it's always that way. It's always, you know, you think about outsourcing or subbing something out. If you think about it for 2 days, you're 2 days behind schedule. So she wants the website up and running as soon as possible, but she doesn't want to take the time to investigate everything. She wants the easy answer, or at this point, she'll end up just hiring somebody, maybe me, to build her a quick little, you know, couple pages website on .com. But we'll see, you know. But Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, they're functional. They work for some people, and you know, they're not my cup of tea.
You have to match the tool to the job.
Right, absolutely. Wow, that was deep. I might tweet that out.
I just think I understand that most of the income for Automatic comes from WordPress.com.
Yeah.
So in pure financial terms, for the Automatic, it's a business, and they've got investors. That side of their business, which they get most of the income, is under attack to some extent. So
I don't think it's under as much attack as you think. They do the WordPress.com support. They do the upgraded features. They have VIP.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I think it comes from big things, not from small, like personal sites.
Right. And I don't think they're not taking out commercials. I also
think that you know, I mean, Matt has said many times that basically they use WordPress.com as a massive beta testing site. Mm-hmm. So if they roll something like this out on WordPress.com, it will eventually be available for self-hosted WordPress.
Not always.
Well, there are some things they use in VIP that aren't, certainly, and there are some other things.
There's a split internally in Automatic between Matt, who wants everything to be open, and other people who don't. It's, you know, I remember when Jetpack first came out. you remember Jetpack in the beginning? It only had 4 features, something like that. And I think I even wrote a blog
Can't
post.
say that now, can you?
Just wait. There will be 1,000 features, and half of them will cost money. Because this is a way for Automatic to wedge their, paws into the pockets of people who don't want to be on WordPress.
Right, yes. Well, I didn't say it would necessarily be available for free.
No, but see, what's happening is a lot of the features that are being added to WordPress.
I bet you're a very brave
so
man,
complex
Morten, argue with Sallie. I just don't argue with her. I just agree.
No, wait.
It's
I
much
have a
tougher
point
than me.
No, I wouldn't dare argue with Morten.
I think what we'll see is I think we'll see a split. We'll see WordPress.com diverge more and more from WordPress, the core application, because WordPress.com benefits from being a different type of service. Like it's becoming more and more of a service and less of an online version of WordPress. And if they include a page builder, that will require a complete rethink of how all the themes work, because you're basically putting a new layer on top. And it would require standards that then have to be adhered to by theme developers who submit themes to WordPress.com. And they can control that, but they can't control the themes that are available in the wider WordPress market. So rolling out a theme builder that would work on WordPress.com would probably mean refactoring it completely to get it to work with every other theme. And that is not something I think Automatic would see any value in doing.
Right. What about you, Natalie? You got any thoughts?
Well, if they put some sort of a page builder on WordPress.com, they're going to have to really think about how that's going to hurt people's ability to export their data out of WordPress.com and move to WordPress.org, because I know a lot of people sign up for WordPress.com to get started. And they run that until they run up against some kind of limitations, and it's time to move off to their own self-hosted site and maybe hire a developer to do something custom for them. And it's going to make it that much harder, I think, to move off of it. They would have to do some sort of plugin that was available in the repo for people on WordPress.org to make sure that all that content could come over.
That's an excellent point, Natalie. The thing, I've got nothing against Wix and the other players in it, but it's just I think people have been kind of drawn to these priority solutions because WordPress hasn't got a real strong page layout thing that they can use, and I prefer to be able to keep them in an open source community rather than going to a priority solution myself. So that's my position. I'm going to wake up Bill. Bill, are you awake, Bill?
I'm busy here. We actually have a question.
That's what I was going to ask, Bill. Have we got some questions?
I told him a couple of things. It says, what is the best, this is a while back, what is the best WordPress plugin for membership sites?
Well, we're going to get there, Bill.
Well, he asked that. I said it would wait till the end of the road. So
yes. Any other questions?
No. I'll do a wild card later on. But Morten's got his finger up. He's giving us a finger?
Whoa.
It's this finger. Can I just mention one thing? So, the appeal of Wix and Squarespace and these other auto builder services is this idea that you can do it yourself. You don't need to hire anyone to do it for you. The problem with these services is that even though it appears that you have a lot of control, you have very limited control because they give you basically a theme to work with, and then you can do some customization within this theme. The other thing I've discovered is that the accessibility of what they build is atrocious. It makes WordPress accessibility look fantastic, which is really bad.
How about the SEO?
And I have no idea. I haven't gone that far. But the reality is
the SEO isn't too impressive either.
If we think about the web going forward, the web needs to become more accessible because of how people access the web with new devices. And I'm always worried that if people go down that track of these custom builders, that they'll end up with sites that are not accessible. And that's especially true for services like The Grid. Have you seen this? The
I have heard of it.
Auto web design thing where you just submit content and it randomly.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
They have the best demo video.
Like, how does it? I watched the demo
no
too.
idea if it works.
That actually, Morten, that's me.
Yeah, it's actually like a little person sitting inside doing it. It's
probably an army of VIP. I'm sorry. I apologise, folks.
Watch the video though. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
The demo. If I may interject.
Yes, go on.
The demo video for the grid is indeed impressive, and it blew a lot of people away. But from what I understand so far, what they have developed is the pages are very heavy. They're not performance. They're not built for performance. And so they would appeal a lot to web designers who want to turn out a site really quickly. That might be an option for like an agency that just wants to turn out like a pretty site. But they're not necessarily going to be the most strategically best put together sites that you know you could put together.
Yeah, well, we've had all this before, haven't we? You know, when I started in this game, I was using Dreamweaver and I was using the visual editor. I admit it on my first couple of websites, and looking, you know, they were awful. But you know, it's kind of like it kind of oscillates, doesn't it, back and forth, doesn't it?
When
Very
I
much
started building websites, they didn't have any visual editors. You used Notepad.
When I'm coding, I use bare bones still. You know, what does Adam's? Adam's been a bit quiet for a while. I'm a bit worried actually. Go on, Adam. Have you got anything to say?
Well,
Adam?
you know, I definitely think there's, you know, the issue of the accessibility is one thing, but the issue of letting people do it themselves. That's how WordPress kind of was pitched. I mean, I always tell people WordPress was pitched as free and easy for many years. And it is free and easy to a point. Beyond that, there's that learning curve, which I mentioned last time. You know, the minute you want more customizations or functionality, it's time or money. Your time or your money.
Right.
If drag and drop, I mean, I use a theme that we know that, I mean, it's drag and drop based, but it works for me. I'm actually branching out and doing some other stuff these days. I feel a little guilty. But, you know, it's
what do you use, Adam?
I can't say right now.
I bought drag and drop. I haven't used it yet. I'm still using dynamic.
You know, it's just a matter of it's what people need to get the same thing that, you know, was said about, you know, the right tool for the right project.
Yeah, my position on this panel is that if people got a load of time to mess around, you know, if you've got a successful business, the last thing you've got is time. And if you're going to spend loads of time on this type of stuff, you're never going to hire me anyway, because you're never going to be able to afford to hire me, and I'm not that expensive. I'm cheap, folks. So I don't get worked up about it because, you know, I wish them well, and I hope their business does grow, and they get to a stage where they want, you know, more professional advice. But it's just, yeah, that's my position. But I think all these systems, like, it comes and goes, and you just cannot, you know, you cannot replace the experienced person and their ability to develop something much better. I would hope so. You know, that's my position on it. Sorry, folks, that was boring, wasn't it?
Someone had an article up recently in managedwp.org about, you know, do end users really need page building tools, because we've just had a, you know, a handful of the new ones coming out, and I think a lot of them are not really aimed at, you know, the hopeless noob kind of end user, because they're not as intuitive as that. They're aimed at the people in the kind of early stages of building websites for others, where they don't have super strong code skills, but they've spent some time learning things, and maybe they have a little other background in design or something, because clearly if there were no market for these things, people wouldn't be publishing a new one every day.
You're totally right. Yeah, but they are hugely popular, aren't they?
They seem to be. I will say the thing that interests me about Beaver Builder is the fact that it says, you know, right there on their homepage that, you know, if you uninstall the plugin, it will, you know, it will convert your data back, and you won't end up with just a jumble of weird things.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know.
All right, I think we've covered my 4 topics. I think we get on to the main subject. You know, this month on WP-Tonic has been membership plugin month, and me and Bill have looked at quite a few membership plugins panel. And the good news
which
is,
ones have you been covering?
oh God, I can't even remember.
All of them.
All of them.
More.
No, it would take you a year to cover all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well, the good news for anybody that wants to use WordPress with a membership functionality is, my God, there's some fantastic plugin solutions. I would not want to be a plugin, a Premier membership plugin producer, because to say the competition is hot is an understatement. But also, there's a lot of membership websites out there. So I just want to ask the panel a quick question, and then a couple others after. So what's your experience? You know, are there any membership plugins that you use that you really liked, and have you got any quick stories of some that you had to use and your experience weren't so great? Does anybody want to jump in, or do I have to choose somebody?
Natalie?
Apparently, Adam is picking me.
Yes, it's you, Natalie.
I like her giggle. That's why I pick on her.
I have built 4 membership sites, and those used Wishlist, Magic Members, and then the last 2 both use Justin Tadlock's membership plugin. I think it's just called Just Members. I did not care for the first 2, which is why the second 2 used Members. One of them had it was a paid membership, but you only had to pay once, and then it was a lifetime membership. So I was able to just set up a custom user role and then a Gravity form with a user registration add-on to collect that payment up front.
Yeah.
And then just use the functionality in Members to manage the rest. The other one was actually annual, so I just had to throw a couple of functions in a plugin to expire people's memberships and get them to renew using Justin Tadlock's Members. So it's really simple, really clean, and fits a lot of use cases, actually, where you don't have to do direct content and all of the different membership levels and all that kind of stuff.
Well, thanks for that. Anybody else going to volunteer, or do I have to choose you?
Have any of you seen... Oh, go ahead.
Go on.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, Morten. Go ahead.
Go on, Morten.
I like this game. We should just keep saying "go ahead" to the other person.
Well, Adam's walked off. I think I've bored him.
Have any of you seen the plugin called PyRegister?
No.
No.
I was playing around with I was trying to build a website. I was building a site for a course that I'm making, and I was trying to aim for a very specific type of membership site. And I tried 14 different plugins to try to find something that actually did what I wanted to. And
do you ever go to bed?
No. And this plugin is the one I ended up with because it allowed me to do things like within one plugin. It allows you to take over the sign up and registration procedure for WordPress. So you basically can redirect people to a custom page for each of the stages: sign up, registration, login, and profile management. So you can actually take away the entire back end of WordPress. And it has a ton of other features, including paid membership and all this other stuff. And it's all contained within one very simple and easy to use plugin. Because the challenge that I found with a lot of these membership plugins is that they're very, very complex. They're huge and complex, and they're built under the old way of doing things in WordPress, with these very, very tricky management pages that assume you know everything already. But PyRegister actually does a lot of this stuff. So I ended up using PyRegister and membership, the one that Natalie was talking about, in combination. And it was like a 10-minute setup at the end. Once I knew what I was doing, I could put the whole thing up in 10 minutes. And it actually works completely seamlessly with just those 2 plugins and nothing else. And it's smart because it does things like when you install and activate it, it builds 4 pages for you: the registration page, the login page, the profile page, and I forget what the 4th one is. And if you deregister the plugin, so you deactivate it, then it removes those 4 pages for you. So you don't have these 4 stray pages that are doing nothing on your page, on your site. And those 4 pages contain within them shortcodes. So if you want to, you can move the shortcode elsewhere in your site, take the pages away, and really customize it.
I'll give you full marks. Yeah.
Dealing with digital media, if you're marketing digital media, how would that work on the page?
Well, you're basically just you're taking over the registration process, right?
Okay.
And then at that point, you would use something to handle the members. I think it actually handles members too, but I'm not sure. I haven't gone that far into it.
I'll give you full marks, Morten. You've managed, I must have talked about 12 plugins in these 3 hours, and you still find one that I didn't know about. So I'll give you a full marks for that, Morten. What about you, John? What's your experience of membership website, membership functionality, and what plugins have you used, if any? I suppose you've totally coded it yourself, haven't you?
No. To be quite honest, I have kind of limited experience with membership sites. My real, on a live client site, has just been a little bit with WooCommerce and groups. But in preparation for this talk, I did do some research on some of the leading plugins, and I busted them out on just like a little test site of my own. And the ones that I found to be
you're another one that doesn't go to bed, John.
Either that or his work is slow right now.
Yeah.
Both. Anyway.
And what was your findings, John? I'm intrigued.
My findings, the 2 that I found to be quite easy to use and quite extensible were iThemes Exchange. It's super simple to set up, and Paid Membership Pro, and both of them are very extensible.
Yep. Paid Membership Pro, that's what Jonathan came up with our series for me.
Mm-hmm.
No, it wasn't actually, Bill. I knew you were.
Wait a second, was it Paid Membership Pro?
I knew
yeah,
you
it was.
I recommended.
New Media Gold Choice. That was your choice.
No, I did not. I recommended Pippin's
Restricted Content Pro. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Restricted Content Pro. I remember that. I've got it right here in my notes. I'm looking at it.
He goes to sleep when we're talking, actually, panel.
How did I miss that?
I don't know, Bill. I have no idea.
Well, what's the panel think about Restricted Content Pro? And
I've just been planning to look at it since I found out he's got a version of it up on GitHub.
What I'm trying to do is, we're new media, and we teach the podcasting, the networking, the net streaming like we're doing now. But what I'm finding is I have to do some basic WordPress setup for folks too. So we're trying to package that all together, and I'm trying to find a membership plugin to manage the people other than just going up on.
Yeah. I was only being nasty to Bill.
No, you're right. Restricted content. I've got to get this month. I got to get there. So what do I need? What should I use?
We're like an old married couple, me and Bill. We just kind of.
Bail time.
Yeah, I have got some extensive experience of membership websites. I've done about 12 to 15.
Why do you do mine?
Because I'm not doing it for free.
That's easy. He needs you to pay him.
I'm a paid mercenary, Bill.
I'll buy you breakfast at Denny's.
This is how it works, Bill. You give me give me a specification, and then I give you a proposal, and then you gobs the money, and then I give you a product, Bill. This is
Look, I tell you, he's my student. Look, he's got the black curtain behind him. He's got the right mic. He's got the dynamic mic. He's doing great. See, I've taught him all this.
Let's get back onto the subject, can we? I've used Paid Membership Pro quite a bit, and I think it's a great plugin. And but if you know your filters and your hooks, and you can knock it around, but I wouldn't. Unless you're doing something really basic, I don't think it's for the beginner. And I've utilised Restrict Content Pro, and what can you say about Pippin Williams? And you must have been Bourn out the womb with the ability to program, mustn't he?
Now, apparently he spent like an extra, 10 hours a day while getting his degree and working a job. It's just like, one of those overachieving types you want to smack upside the head.
It just gets me depressed, but I just have another whiskey and I'm all right. But I have utilised his, and I think that's pretty good. And I have had. I have used Wishlist a few times, and it's all okay. But it's a bit like what Morten said. It's got an endless stream of option pages.
It's so complex, yeah.
To say the least.
That's Stu's, right?
I can't remember actually, but I had to integrate. I had to do a couple. I had to integrate it into some forum software. And it did the job, but it was it kind of caused me a couple of weeks of long evenings, put it that way. So what about Adam? Have you had the pleasure of doing any kind of membership websites? And
so early on, I've used Content Restriction Pro as well. However you say that. Then I switched over to I messed around with and got it working for somebody for a while, and then they ran out of money. S2 Member.
Oh yeah.
An S2 Member's been around for a while, and there's a free level and the pay level, and it's got a bit of a curve. But the thing I don't like about it, when we removed it from a site, it left some information in the tables. It left the user roles, which I hate. I had to go in and remove them manually. I don't know if they fixed that or not in the newer version, but you go to user role, subscriber, admin, editor, author, and there'll be the other 5 roles that they gave you, and they're like, well, this does me no good. This is just a mess. So that kind of turned me off to it. So now I'm actually with John. I'm a huge fan of iThemes Exchange, and I'm planning on using something for that coming up. Well, in theory, March 1st, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I looked at it and it did look really impressive, but I haven't utilised it. But it did look impressive what they've done with it. If another membership site comes up, I will be looking at it. What about you, Morten? Oh, you already did come up with something I never even heard of, didn't you?
Yes.
Still in awe.
I'm still in awe about that. And you managed to come up with some membership. What about?
Hey, we're shooting on an hour now, Jonathan.
Oh well, we better finish.
We got to do the wild card. The wild card question.
The wild card. We got to do the quick wild card.
We got to talk a few minutes about.
We had like a Turner.
I want to know. I got a question for Morten.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a question for Morten. Morten, we have the FCC, Federal Communication Commission.
Yep.
They are voting today to take over the internet, basically, and they're doing it under the guideline of equal access. Do you have something like that up in Canada, first of all?
You mean the status of the internet? Yeah, we have something called the CRA, Canadian. I don't know what that means.
What do they do? What do they do to control the internet? Do they tax it? Because I think the FCC is about to tax the internet.
No, they don't. The basic issue is oversight over what the providers can and cannot do, right? If they can throttle the internet. Right now, there's debate in Canada about whether or not they should throttle the internet, because all the providers want to do that. All the non-providers think that's horrible. There was debate previously, a couple of years ago, about this. But the problem is, in Canada, you have this, all telecommunication is bundled into one. I think it's the same in the States, but it's more convoluted in Canada. So telephone, TV, and internet are all handled as one individual unit. So what ends up happening is sometimes you get these weird things that travel over. So there's rules about how TV is broadcast over the air, and whether or not, if it's a free channel and a cable network, then the cable then redistributes it. Do they then have to pay the free network because they're redistributing their signal or not? And can they degrade the signal? And that has somehow climbed into the internet as well. So there's this huge mess.
Is Google playing up there?
No.
Okay.
There's no. We just have 3 providers. There's TELUS, which is the old telephone provider. There's and then there's Shaw and Rogers, but Shaw and Rogers have split the country in half. So Rogers has one side, Shaw has the other side. Yeah. So I'm in Shaw territory, and then we have Bell, which is basic.
as he froze. And that's good timing. Bell, they cut him off.
I haven't paid my bill.
He said something bad.
I want to issue with how you described the situation, though. When you said that the FCC wants to take over the internet and tax it. I mean, I understand American anti-governmental nonsense, but that's just pure paranoia. What's happening is the government is trying to prevent private companies from basically destroying the freedom of the internet. And this is not hyperbolic either. They're literally trying to say, because we can't control you anymore, because you can actually use the internet to access services we don't provide, we want to charge you extra for those services so that we still get the money. Because the internet is posing a huge threat against the big cable companies who used to control what we watched and when we watched it.
What we need is competition. We need more providers. And what happens, I was a city councilman for almost 6 years until 9/11, and I'm very familiar with cable companies. They're not my friends. And in fact, we penalized our cable company, but they're public-private monopolies, basically. They have franchises within cities. So what we need is competition. We need more people competing, more ways to get a broadband than just a cable company. Yeah, that's what we need.
And just so you know, Verizon, just for those who have Fios in LA or a couple, Verizon sold Fios. It'll be a new name within a year called Frontier from the East Coast. So, once again, kind of went on the low on the radar. Less competition, or maybe whatever. That's just the money. It sold for $13 billion. I just missed out on buying it myself. Right. But
anyway, I was back in Omaha when they put in the test Google Optics, and it's pretty impressive.
Awesome.
Go ahead, Jonathan. Back to you, Jonathan.
Oh, it's back to me, is it, Bill?
Anybody else?
Time
will tell what happens now that the FCC is taken over. Probably taken over.
It would be lovely not to have to deal with a charter.
Where's my tin hat?
It says tin.
After what you've said about Canadian providers, Morten, you're finished anyway.
Morten, they were worried you were going to say something. They froze you.
Right.
All the people in the States don't say FBI, CIA, or NSA.
Right. I mean, look, we have crappy, expensive internet because we don't have enough competition, and they have, cheaper, better internet in most parts of Europe because competition was forced on them by regulation. And, I am not a big fan of the American government, past or present, but I would think I would probably rather have the FCC in charge than, Comcast.
It's the cities that create the monopolies. In Kansas City, all of the cities got the new Google, huge, super fast internet.
You're talking about
one city didn't because the council didn't allow Google to come in because the cable company controlled those council members.
You know how to fix that? By nationwide federal regulation.
You're a Canadian.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, this works everywhere else. I don't know why Americans think that this free market system works when everywhere where they don't have it, everything is always better. I'm sorry.
And Bill keeps talking about Google, the company that does no evil. Yeah, sure.
No, I just know that's my favorite provider, right? Really, for speed.
Oh, God, I think you've got to be worried about any company.
I'm like the guy in the corner for my speed.
We do no evil.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't have a provider for speed. I don't know about the rest of you.
Morten needs to put his little hat on now, his purple hat, or where it is, his orange hat.
God, let's finish, Bill. Have we got any questions?
That's enough of the FCC.
Have we got any questions from the chat?
We had a couple questions.
We answered the question about the best membership plugin. I mean, I think it depends on what you want, because a lot of things that are billed as membership plugins, what those are basically content restriction plugins.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you want to build a site where you're like displaying your members, you need an entirely different sort of a plugin generally. And I'm looking at something called Users Ultra for a site where what we want is for people to A, pay for membership, but B, be able to create and display detailed profiles.
Can I say something, Sally? You get the second gold medal of this, Because you have managed to find a plugin that I've never heard of.
Hours looking for something, because on sites we've built in the past, we custom developed the profile sections, and that was not something that this is a nonprofit site and they haven't got the budget for that. But somewhere up here I think I have the link to the site.
I knew my panel would impress me. You always impress me, panel. You always manage. You found 2 plugins that I've never even heard of.
One last thought. I use Infusionsoft, and they have a solution too, but I don't want to pay $70 a month. I know Infusionsoft.
I had to integrate Wishlist with Infusionsoft once, and it was ugly.
Infusionsoft is kind of ugly sometimes too.
Infusionsoft. My sense of it.
I won't wish that on my worst enemy.
I tell my wife, she's in charge of figuring out.
All right, then I'll come to the conclusion, Bill, that we haven't had any decent.
Hey, there's a question for you. I think.
Oh, right.
No, it's for I guess the whole panel. It says, how? Wait, let me find this. It actually was addressed to you. How much should I expect to pay a developer an hour?
Yes,
that's the question from
I responded in the chat.
RMC's a non-profit.
Can the panel answer that?
Holy shit.
I can tell you how much you can expect to pay me.
$5. Fiverr.
Come on, panel. Give it to finish this off.
Everyone should average you an answer. What do you think the rate should be?
Come on, panel. What's the fair rate?
Start with Adam.
Whatever the market will bear. I mean, it depends on how do you value yourself and your time. Honestly, I mean, I started off 20 years ago. I was $20 an hour.
Wow.
Now it's 20 years ago. I'm $23.50 an hour. So my wife's like, give it up. No, it just depends. It's. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if should we just say what do we charge an hour when I do hourly work?
You can or not. Do you want to say, Bill? Do you want to say, Adam?
I charge $110 an hour when I do hourly repair fix work. And and people say, how long will it take? And if it's a brand new site, I get a lot of people asking me for help, and I say it's going to take 2 to 4 hours. I don't know until I open up, until I log into your dashboard. I don't know what I'm going to see.
So you don't give an estimate ahead of time. You don't say this is what it's going to take. Okay.
I can't. We don't know because I have
until you've seen the code.
Right.
Have no idea.
So I'll give somebody 15 minutes of my time on the phone, and I might spend another 15 minutes tops if I really don't know what's going on, or they don't know how to explain what's going on.
Good.
I'll spend maybe a half hour, potentially investigative, before I jump in and say this is more time on me. But 2 to 4 hours, oftentimes it's more, sometimes it's less. And I let people know I track my time well. I mean, I use FreshBooks. I mean, I'm ethical. I track what I've done. I give them notes. I don't leave any back doors of anything. But 2 to 4 hours, it's like that cable guy coming to your house. We'll be there between 8 and noon. Okay. We don't know until we open.
Let's go down the list. Go, John.
Go, John.
Morten,
what about you, John?
Yeah.
Natalie, then.
Lately I've been trying to do more like a value flat fee based pricing. Definitely for fix-it jobs, that ends up being hourly. But if like my average effective rate it's somewhere between 50 and 80 an hour, which is it's I mean that's still low. But I think that but you'd be surprised. I've talked to a lot of developers out there, and there's a lot of people that are only earning, $20-30 an hour still, and and they're happy at that rate. So we talk about freelance exchange sites being really low.
Right.
I think even in our market, I think there's a lot of work to be done with putting the value back on our work.
Yeah, I'm with you. Real quick, I want to just mention I'm a value person as well. I don't, there's a great ebook by the guys from FreshBooks. I believe it's FreshBooks.
Yeah, I've read it.
It's brilliant, and it's placed on where you are in life, what your needs are, your overhead, all that stuff. It's a business, and a lot of creatives even forget the fact. I mean, it's photographer background. A lot of photographers are terrible in business. They end up working for $8 an hour or less. You shoot a wedding for $500, and they work 40 hours. It's not right. So it's value for sure. for the bigger projects, but for the hourly stuff, for the fixed, I can't give a flat rate because it's a loss leader. Then I don't want to make $10 an hour. I can't. I have kids. I'd rather. Yeah. I don't want to hang out with them, but I'd rather do something else.
So Morten's next. Morten, what's the Canadian dollar these days? What's the exchange rate?
I think I get one. Let's see. For $1 I get like 120.
No,
like for $100 I get 120 Canadian.
Oh,
I think Linda's been lying to you, Morten.
No. No, I think so. The Canadian dollar is at 80 cents.
So how does Linda pay you? Do they pay you in American dollars or euros?
Dried fish and
What's franc?
fuzzy animals. I don't know. No, seriously though. The question was, what is a fair? Like, how much should I expect to pay for a developer?
Yes.
Right. So okay. There's a huge conversation to be had here that we're not going to dive into all that much.
Next month.
I will just
have a whole
say,
episode on it.
I'll just say some very, very short things. Outside the WordPress community, development, you're expected to pay somewhere between $120 and $300 an hour for any kind of professional developer.
Right.
Within the WordPress community, that same quality of code goes for anywhere between $50 and $120. That's not because the WordPress community does worse work. It's because the people who work within the WordPress community often started in the WordPress community and have no idea what's going on outside the community. That's an actual problem because it devalues the quality of WordPress and it makes WordPress seem cheap when it's not. When it comes to what you charge, you have to actually do what Adam said, which is consider yourself a business. That means you have to tally up all the expenses you have. If you have a home office, that's still a home office that you use. You have to buy all your gear, all your software. If you're going to do anything professionally, you have to pay your licenses for your software. You have to actually have proper hosting and all these things. So if you just tally it up, I sat down with one of my friends. She was charging $75 an hour, and I did the math for her. For her to break even, she needed to charge $120 an hour, and a fair rate for her would be $198 an hour Canadian. But she was charging $80 simply because she had no idea the cost of doing business for her because she wasn't thinking as a business. And I think this comes from a lot of people. They come into the business of web design from some sort of salaried job, so they think about income as something that you get without overhead, right? Instead of thinking about, I'm now running an entire business, it has all these other things involved in it. So finding, like, for someone who's not in the WordPress community, who's just hiring someone, I would say, if someone is saying they're charging $20 an hour, I'd be very careful about hiring them, because not just because I don't know what they're going to do, but also because they're undervaluing the quality of their own work. And they're not going to be happy about their job they're doing because they're going to be pressed for money. The other thing is, any other profession, plumber, dentist, lawyer, any kind of thing where you need professional services does not cost that little. They usually cost upwards of $200 an hour. So
that's true.
We kind of have to
these Canadian socialist plumbers in Vancouver. I don't know.
Next.
What about Natalie? Let's get going. What about Natalie? You got any thoughts on this, Natalie?
Yeah, so how much would you expect to pay a developer per hour? I would say to think about, it's not just the price per hour. If you hire a junior level developer at $30, $40, $50 an hour, it might take them 3 days to figure out something that a professional, more experienced developer who you're paying $200 an hour could do in an hour. Mm-hmm. So you can't just think about the price per hour when you're comparing one developer to another. It's also their experience level and the value that they're bringing to it. So it doesn't boil down to just what's the hourly rate for each person.
I totally agree, Natalie. So what about Sallie? What do you reckon?
I reckon that charging $125 an hour is probably not enough, and it's been many years since I raised my rates, and either that or I just need to bill for a number more hours. It is true that people in other professions charge more, and we come up against an expectation on the part of some clients that it should be cheap because it's WordPress. And I think some of that expectation has been aided and abetted by all the people who are working for cheap. But that's also true in a lot of other areas, particularly creative ones. You know, there are the people who will do something on Fiverr, but as Natalie said, you've got the total cost of ownership issue. And you know, or you know, the Odesk or whatever, and you know, if you're living somewhere where the cost of living is lower, you can charge a smaller amount and maybe still like cover your bills. But if you're living in an expensive place and you know it costs money for your electricity and money for your internet and money for your web hosting and money for whatever, you know, developer licenses you buy and money for, you know, your licenses for your Sublime Text and your PHP Storm and your Photoshop and your whatnot, then you know you better do the math and make sure that you're charging at least enough to cover your expenses, and then you need to think about, well, you know, how long have I been doing this and what am I really worth, because I am allowed to charge more than a break-even amount. This is not a charity I'm running.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Adam, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so two things real quick. So one thing is, just because we're faster as we get better doesn't make us cheaper. So keep that in mind for the people listening, or just for the for the panel. But you know, I had an experience a couple years ago. Site that I set up, total mistake on my part. Left the admin username. This is 5 years ago. No, it is what it is. Got hacked. It was a family member site, so I took care of it half price. But it took me 3 hours to figure out where the piece of code was. It was in the header, hidden. It was a piece of JavaScript hidden in the header. It only showed up on Facebook when you took the link from the post on Facebook, and it just auto-filled credit card processing. That said, 3 months later, same problem happened to a client of mine who I had nothing to do with setting up. I mean, I helped them, I consulted for some stuff. They left an admin account. I knew exactly how to fix it in 5 minutes. I fixed it. I waited an hour. I sent them a bill. You know, it's for the same time frame. But just because we have more knowledge does not make us less valuable, the value add part of it.
Right. Well, it's like the old story about the guy who got called to fix the,
right.
Everything had come to a halt in the factory, and
right.
You got a bill that's like, $5,000. What do you mean $5,000? You whacked that pipe, once with your hammer. So, all right, so let me break it down. It's, $49.50 for $50 for whacking the pipe and $49.50 for knowing where to whack it.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I was going to add one more thing though. If you go online and Google photographer's calculator, I'll put a link in here if you want.
Yeah.
There's a great calculator you can use. As a photographer, I used to do this all the time. You work backwards. What do you want to make a year?
Yeah.
Whatever, for one. And then and then you also say, what are your monthly expenses? Like, what's your rent, your utilities, all these things, travel, insurance, legal, and how many days, from a photographer's perspective, how many days can I realistically shoot an event or trade show, whatever I'm going to shoot. I used to shoot a lot of events and trade shows. I got less and less weddings because I just didn't want them. And based on that, it says you have to charge per day or make per day X dollar. You can do the same thing. You can modify it for what we do as web developers. Say, okay, I can work 10 months a year. If you want to work 10 months, every day kind of thing. And it'll tell you if you want to make 100,000 less your expenses, plus your expenses. It divides it out. You need to bill every day at $250, $300, $400 a day, and that works. So I suggest people look that up. I mean, I'll find it for you real quick. I think it's on the not WPPI. It's the ASCAP site. I'll send it to you, Rosa. So
yeah, there's several of these calculators. There's one called the freelance hourly rate calculator from Motive App that does the same thing. There's also a different strategy that you can employ, which is promoted by Curtis McHale here in BC, which is he charges on a bi-weekly basis for projects. So he says, you hire me for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks cost this much money, and then how that time is managed depends entirely on you. So if you hire Curtis and you say, here's a crap load of work that needs to be done, then he will spend all the time that in those 2 weeks doing that. But if he says to you, well, to be able to continue doing this, I need all these things from you, and you don't deliver, then you're wasting his time, but you're actually paying for that time. And that's something that I think a lot of freelancers would benefit from, that kind of thinking, that even though your client is being slow or not doing their job, that doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden supposed to give them free work.
Right.
or your time, because when you're working on one project, you can't work on another, so you're basically throwing money out the window. So you need to be have awareness of the actual time you're spending on something, rather than just thinking about, I'm currently working right now, therefore I should charge, and then if I'm not actually writing code, I shouldn't be charging money. This is business. This has to do with how to run business, and I think a lot of people freelancers just don't know how to run businesses.
Yeah, I mean, you have to add into any estimate a lot of time for project management, client communication, all of this, which can, take up probably, especially if you've got subcontractors you're working with, probably as much time as any actual development work.
Yeah,
I'm actually designing a T-shirt that says WordPress website WordPress website development, $50. Client communications, $4,550.
I'd like to give some quick insights and then wrap it up. I really think there's developers and there's developers, and it's not totally up to actual technical skill. I think when you're dealing with somebody like Natalie or with Morten, not only are you dealing with an individual that's got very high technical skill levels, and I'm not disparaging the other members of the panel, I'm just choosing Natalie and Morten. Not only have they got good technical skill levels, but they've got good communication and business skills as well. And not only do they bring their technical ability, but they also bring their I've worked with really very high-end programmers, but they cannot communicate. You would not let them near a client.
That's redundant. You just said programmers.
Exactly. You would not let them anywhere near a client unless you wanted the whole project to implode rapidly.
My refuses to deal with the clients at all.
Yeah. There's a sizable minority that
I have to do all the client communication.
Yeah, they just do not want to talk to people. I have one. He just wants to be in front of his monitor 8 hours a day with his throbbing music.
Only 8?
Only 8. He's cut down a bit.
I'm sorry, but programmers are 16-hour-a-day people. That's why you fork it out for the errand.
No, he got married recently, Sallie, so he's had to cut down a little bit.
Yes. Marriage, it cuts into a lot of things.
Yeah, but he does not want to communicate with people. People are messy. They are unpredictable. But then there's developers that are still really very technically very good, but you can actually communicate with them. And then there's people like me that bring a lot of business, and they're pretty good on the coding, and they're good on the business side of it. So I live in Reno. And Reno people expect you to cut your bill by 30% just for the fact that you live in Reno.
Especially if you weren't born here.
Yes. And basically...
You're an outsider, the island.
Most of my jobs are fixed fee, and half my fee goes with actual customer management. The actual time we're doing in actually developing the thing is about less than 50%. There's so much back and forth, and half the time they have no idea. That's why they're hiring me. But for just maintenance, what I do is I say, I charge you for 2 hours just for a quick look, and I can tell you if I can fix it or how much. And I charge $50 an hour, and I just charge them 2 hours, and I say, look, if they start whinging, they just get their money back. I'll give them their money back, and I'll never deal with them again, because we're never going to get on. If they're going to complain about $100 and giving me 2 hours to look at their problem, I'm just not going to argue with them. I'm just going to give them their bloody money back.
Hey, Jonathan,
never contact me again.
On those happy notes, we need to sort of tie it up together and figure out. Maybe next month we can talk about models and different kind of models at different levels of businesses.
Yeah. So let's wrap up. So I'd just like to thank the panel. I think it's been an excellent show, and we've covered a lot of stuff. And I really thank the panel. Any last words, Bill?
Thank you, Jonathan.
I think Morten's frozen again.
Hey, I joined just for the opportunity to listen to Morten. So.
Morten left. That was quick. Morten got out of here.
I have to go to a coach's meeting.
The Canadian.
He's gone bald.
No, he's back. Morten is back.
I think he's gone dancing.
So actually, just right now, right now, finally the screen is changing for me. For everyone's when different people talk, now it's changing.
It started a while ago.
I've been watching it. It's oops. Is it stuck? It's stuck. No.
I did tell you, Bill.
No. I'm watching it over here. I'm watching on the actual real play. It's if you watch the real play, we've been getting good discussion.
So what should I do with him,
replay.
Adam? If it's stuck, should I shoot him, Adam?
It's not stuck. I'm watching the live.
Just graze him. Just like Cheney with his friends.
Well, I thank you, Natalie. I don't know what
it was Morten did something.
Made of this madness, but thank you for coming.
I gotta go too.
Well, thank you for having me.
That's fine. All right, then, folks.
Welcome, Natalie.
Thank you so much. Bye. I'll give you a call back on Skype, Bill, in about 5 minutes. All right.
I love you, Natalie.
Let me. Everyone stay on the line for a second. We're gonna shut down. Everyone wave.
Woohoo!
Everyone wave.
Twitter. Hey, Adam Silver.
Wave. Okay, 1 on 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Goodbye.
See you.